Yes, fight fans, good evening. Jay's Fight Talk here with Straight Talk episode 3 with my No Punches Pulled co-host, boxing oracle and friend Liam Tully. First and foremost, how we doing, pal?
I'm all good, brother. I'm all good. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. I woke up this morning. It's always a bonus at my age.
Always helps.
Yeah, we're a couple of days earlier this week. We've got a packed week, so we've had to try squeeze in Straight Talk episode 3. It's lean pickings really because obviously we're coming a couple of days early. We go towards the end of the week so that we can get some of the headlines and breaking news. So I have just seen that the IBF have mandated final eliminator. Let me just find it. Erickson Lubin is going to be fighting. Just bear with me a second. I had it all teed up and now I've lost it now. But basically, he's getting an IBF title shot against. There's also Shingi Oka's fighting Tadaran in Osaka in May.
Yeah, I've seen that.
IBF. Adriel Holmes for the IBF title eliminator. Rights have been secured at purse bid, so it looks like that fight's going to happen. We haven't really seen a lot of Erickson Lubin. He was touted as sort of the next big thing. I think that got put paid too. He got absolutely walloped inside. Was it a round that Charlo that knocked him out?
Charlo done him in a round and then he retired after 9 against Sebastian Fundora as well. So yeah, both times he's stepped up, he's taken a bit of a pasting.
Which surprises me that he's then going into an eliminator for it doesn't say it's a final eliminator, so it might just be an IBF bauble fight. And he's 10 steps away from getting a world title fight. I'd like to see him out. I mean, he came through in sort of a blaze of glory. Obviously took a couple of setbacks, but I'd like to see what he's got. I don't want to say what he's got left because I don't believe he's that old, but I'd like to see him have a run and just see if he is as good as they said. Because when Charlo knocked him out, it was just one of them things. And Charlo was probably the best, one of the best top 3 in that division at the time. I think it was a little bit early for him, and it was a freak knockout. Fundora, as you say, retired after 9. He was getting beat, and does that show that he's not got the? Does it show that he's not got the guts for a dogfight? I don't know, because Fundora could do that to a lot of people. So I'd like to gauge what he's still got left after those bad losses, because they are really bad losses.
I mean, it's a difficult one, mate, because he lost to Fundora and he came back in 2023 and had 2 wins. Wasn't seen at all last year. So now you're looking at, if this fight happens in May, that will be from September 2023 to May 2025 out of the ring, which is a long break for any fight.
Long time, that.
Long time out of the ring. I believe he's 29 now and he'll still be 29 by May. So he's the right side of 30 still, just about by a few months, but you got to hold on to these things.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him come back, and it's a super welterweight division that's sexy at the moment. It's got Crawford, it's got Madrimov, it's got Ortiz, it's got Tim Tszyu, Makhmadaliev. It's got all of these fighters that can offer something, and Erickson Lubin would be a problem, I believe, against any of the top guys at the moment. We just need to see him get on a run, and him going straight into an eliminator of any kind is risky. However, there's no time to waste. After the Fundora fight, I mean, I'm just looking at the scorecards against Fundora. At the time he was stopped, 1 judge had it level and 2 judges had Fundora up by a round. But I don't remember the fight being that close. I mean, it was 2022, so that may just be time, making the fight seem worse than it was. But look, get him back out there, get him active. He's either still going to have it and we're going to see some fantastic fights for him, or he's not.
Yeah. Sam there with a comment. Yes, brother, can't be with us this evening. So he's listening in. DJ Pat as well. Thanks for joining us, brother. Good evening. Look, the elephant in the room, the biggest fight of the millennium has been announced today. I'm taking the piss, but it looks like the Paul brothers are going to fight each other.
I'm not.
I am doing a watch along. I swear, if you and Sam say you're doing a watch along, you do it on your own. I'm not. I said before that they'd eventually try to make this fight. They'll make some kind of beef. It'll sell a lot of tickets. I thought I'd mention it for the laugh, but yeah, that's about as much as we'll we'll cover from that.
Jake Paul, Mike Tyson was the limit of what I can bring myself to watch. I can't go any further.
After that buffered all night, then I'm not doing it again. Thanks for joining us, Roper Dope. I hope you're well, brother. Evening, boys. Did you see the Bakram Saliev hinted at a big fight today, Fundora unification? Yeah, I did. It was very vague. I'd rather him just announced it. I don't think you need the, guess who I'm going to be fighting, ? And then disappear for a week. Just met the fights, man. But yeah, I'm hoping it's that. We would literally just talking. Liam was just talking about Fundora and we're talking about Lubin. So, as you said, it's the division. It's the sexy division, the glamour division. So, we're clambering for these big fights. Yeah. Do you think it is the Fundora unification or can you see another fight for him?
They are both PBC fighters. PBC are desperate, like you would not believe, to get some big pay-per-view fights because it doesn't look like they have the rights for the Canelo fight in May, does it? So with that in mind, I do think it will be. And I think they'll announce it Saturday, mate. PBC like to announce a big show, don't they, on their pay-per-view cards? I think Fundora and Murtazaliev will get announced on Saturday, Sunday morning for us, but Saturday night out in America as a pay-per-view.
Okay.
Mid to late May.
Gun to head, who wins that fight for you? I could see Fundora. Yeah, he's my initial pick. But I can see ways that Fundora could win that fight. Just because of the size of him and the awkwardness. And, Murtazaliev is a little bit more traditional in his style. I don't want to say he's got a generic... He's Kazakhstani, is he? He's Kazakhstani. They have that sort of... They used to call it sort of Eastern Bloc style. High hands, in and out in straight lines. He's not that. He's more than that. But he does have more of a traditional style than Fundora. Fundora's sort of a freak of nature in terms of size and stuff. And I could see him winning, but I would pick Murtazaliev. I think if I had to pick one, I think he's just got a little bit more power possibly as well. I don't know.
Yeah, look, the thing with Fundora is since that epic fight against Tim Tszyu, which was last Easter, we've not seen him because he sat out the ring waiting around for Crawford or Madrimov or Virgil Ortiz. So now he's had, by the time he fights, if this fight does happen in, say, May, June time, he would have had 15 months out of the ring against Murtazaliev, who is coming in hot after absolutely destructing Tim Tszyu and leaving me and Sam with our jaws on the floor at about 3 in the morning a couple of months back. So I can see a path to victory for Fundora. He's an awkward fucker. He's got long levers. His movement is something that is very difficult to figure out. But
that's his monetization gone. We lasted
probably is. I apologize.
I don't give a shit, mate. Fuck that.
But it's one of those, mate, where you can see a path to victory for Fundora because he's awkward, because he's difficult, because he hits you with punches you're not expecting to see. But I just think Murtazaliev has iron in his fists, and if he was able to get rid of Tim Tszyu that quickly, I wonder what he will do to Fundora if he's in the same move.
Yeah, it's that is one of those fights where you just literally can't take your eye off it for 12 rounds. I think it's just going to be an absolute firefight. I did see earlier on, I think Shu's got an announcement. I don't know whether he's going to jump on one of these big cards, but he seems to be back in the gym, and he sort of hinted at there was an announcement. I think he had his brother sat outside of him though, so I don't know whether he's going to be turning over or whether it is an announcement from himself. I would like to see him back in the mix. I believe that he's good enough to mix it with any of them. He's proved that. And I'm also interested to see how he takes a devastating loss like that. In terms of his return, it's exciting. The division's starting to hot up again.
I think for me with Tim Tszyu, mate, Tim Tszyu is with Main Event, who have pretty much done a one-fight retainer with him for the last 2.5 years since he beat Jeff Horn. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying. Do not be surprised if we see Tim Tszyu coming back in an 8-rounder on the Sydney Matchroom card in March. He's a free agent.
What about against this guy? This guy?
He'll have a fight first. He's coming off back-to-back losses against Fundora and Murtazaliev. He's going to have a fight first. He won't bounce straight into Spence. No.
I didn't mean an immediate announcement, but I could see those two fighting each other. I think it's a winnable fight for both. because we don't know what Spence is going to turn up. Spence
I
won't
can
box
see it in
Coffey
the autumn.
for a couple
I
of
can
years.
see it in the autumn. I think
Back
for
end
the
of
time
year.
being, he's a free agent, isn't he? So I can see him appearing on that Matchroom card in March, and then we go from there.
Yeah, possibly. What's DJ Pat saying here about Ginger? Canelo will probably fight on the Matchroom banner again during the Cinco de Mayo weekend. It will be a so-called ring event that Turkey will do outside of Riyadh. I'm bored of hearing about Canelo now. I'm really bored about...
Sorry, Pat, on this, Turkey's doing a ring event the night before Canelo supposedly gets meant to go, when you've got Haney and Garcia not fighting each other. So I don't know if it will be a ring event or a matchroom event, if that makes sense. Because Turkey's doing that Friday night show, isn't he, in Times Square by all accounts? That's where the venue is for that. So it'd be very surprising if we get 2 ring shows. Remember, they're only meant to be doing 5 a year. I don't think Turkey's going to...
Yeah, I don't think they'll cluster them so close together, though.
No.
I think they'll stretch it out a little bit more. But, yeah, some exciting fights. I did see an announcement. I've lost it now. Virgil Ortiz is looking at... Have you seen that announcement? Virgil Ortiz... No. Can't find it, but there was talk of Virgil Ortiz making a run again, and they'd named him. See if I can find it somewhere. Just want to touch briefly outside of boxing, PFL Saturday, because we hadn't really spoke about it. We briefly spoke about me, you and Sam. Just how impressed I was with Paul Hughes. I think it was written off by a lot of people within MMA. You know, PFL and Bellator always get the shitty end of the stick anyway. You know, the B leagues and whatnot. And then, you know, they put up, for me, it was probably the best PFL card, or certainly best PFL main event that I've seen in a long time. And I think Paul Hughes certainly announced himself as one of the best lightweights in the world. I think either of those two in that main event would have given either of the any of the top 5 lightweights an hard night. I could see any of them against Poirier, Gaethje, Saint-Denis. Islam's probably the only one that beats him, but I mean, Habib is quoted as saying, I mean, I know he said it about Islam, but that Usman is the better of them all. I don't know whether that's a sales pitch or whether he really believes that. He didn't show that on Saturday night, or is Paul Hughes that good? Don't know. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
First of all, mate, we've got to give Paul Hughes massive props, because he's gone in there on an opportunity no one's really given him a shot with. Everyone said he's in there to make up the numbers, and if he can get into the championship rounds, then that's an achievement. And he's gone in there and he's drawn on one card, and it's a round either way on the other 2. That's a phenomenal achievement. So you've got to give Paul Hughes credit. I mean, Nurmagomedov fought how a Nurmagomedov Dagestani fighter fights in the same way as Islam fights, in the same way that Umar tried to fight, did for the first 10 minutes anyway against Merab, in the same way that Khabib did back in his heyday. So it's a very similar style. And I'd argue that's probably, excluding Merab beating Umar, that's the closest we've seen to a Nurmagomedov-style fighter being beaten in a long time. Paul Hughes gave a fantastic account of himself. He deserves a rematch. And if the PFL 100%. Don't make it in Dublin, it is one of the biggest own goals in their company's history. It has to be in Dublin.
I think they're probably going to have it in Belfast, because is he not Northern Irish? I think he's Northern Irish. I might be wrong, but look, it needs to be in Ireland, doesn't it? That fight needs to be in Ireland. What surprised me was Nurmagomedov looking to the ref a lot. You know, there was three groin strikes. I think Usman got a point deducted for one of them. There was the accidental clash of heads that Hughes actually came off worse in. Claret streaming down his face, cut on top of his head. He was doing the BJ Penn, licking the blood off his gloves. He was gesturing the crowd. He was smiling. Umar took every second of the 5 minutes that he got, and in a couple of the groin strikes, he took a couple of minutes as well. That was a fantastic sign for Hughes. I think Hughes will kick himself when he watches it back. I think he conserved energy to stop the takedowns, and I think he conserved more than he actually needed, because if you watch him in the last round, when he switches and reverses that takedown attempt and ends up getting Nurmagomedov up against the cage, he unloads on him, absolutely unloads on him, and we're 24 and a half minutes deep. You know, Umar had barely anything left, and Paul Hughes, if that fight had gone on, it would have been very interesting, I think. Usman has come out and praised Paul, but then sort of made an excuse or justified his performance by saying he underestimated Paul Hughes, which I don't believe. That I've seen as much as you can see, but I've seen snippets of Khabib's training, and he is brutal. So even if he psychologically took his eye off the ball, physically he was prepared for that fight.
Yeah, look, coming out and saying you've underestimated an opponent when you've scraped by with a decision is a tactic as old as time in both boxing and mixed martial arts. I'm not buying it for a second. You've had a close fight with someone that no one thought was on your level. If you are what you say you're about, and especially with the limited options, particularly within the PFL organization, you do a rematch immediately. You don't make excuses. You don't take other options. You close off this chapter because it's either 1-1 and the PFL can have a money spinning by their standards trilogy, or it's 2-0 and you put a definitive rubber stamp on that chapter.
Rubber stamp on it.
Look, I did underestimate him. Say he gets Paul Hughes out of there in the first or second rounds in the rematch. Look, I did underestimate him. Look what I've done here, and no one then will have an argument about it. It's disappointing to hear. I mean, we don't normally hear Nurmagomedovs talking negatively at all because they never have a close fight.
They don't lose, really, do they?
Yeah, it's disappointing that he's gone down this route, but you have to give him credit because he came through it. There was times where I wondered if he was going to come through it when he was struggling. He was looking at the ref, etc., etc. He's come through it now. Go and prove it because there's nothing else really out there in the PFL unless he's suddenly going to move over to UFC. He's got to do this for me.
Who else? There's no one else to fight. I mean, AJ McKee's probably the next in line, but he lost against Hughes previously. So there's there's another guy that basically I'd have Hughes against Usman 2, and then you put AJ McKee, and I forget the other kid's name. The problem for me with PFL, I don't know whether they're running out of money because they've been doing these $1 million tournaments. They've now dropped that to $500,000, which doesn't bode well for
doesn't sound good, does it?
for forecasting. There are less fights, so I think you need 3 fights now rather than 4 fights. But your money's halved, so that's never a good sign. But that's a good actual segue to GFL. I don't know if you've seen the new promotion that was revealed over the weekend, GFL.
No.
I don't know if it stands for Grandad Fight League because the average age of their roster is 36. So they did they did like a draft, you know, like they do American sports, don't they?
NFL style draft, yeah.
NFL style draft. They drafted Rashad Evans, who came out and said, I haven't even signed with them. I think he'd agreed to fight Rampage under their banner, but hadn't agreed to the draft. Anyway, he was drafted. 24 hours later, they'd scrubbed his photo off the visual within the website. I think Tony Ferguson signed with them. There's some crazy fighters in it. There's some crazy. Well, as I say, their average age is 36. It's a gimmick, but listen to this. So Chris Weidman recently retired from the UFC. Former world champion, beat Anderson Silva, great fighter. You know, New York legend, MMA legend. Recently retired. He was losing fights he would have never lost 4 or 5 years ago. Never really recovered from the leg break against.
That's what I was about to say. That leg break kind of finished him off at
that leg break just finished him. It took too long to recover. He got staph, I think. He got another infection. A bone didn't set right. It just ruined his career. But look, Chris Weidman has cemented himself in UFC in terms of a legacy. He was not the first man to beat Anderson Silva, but the first man to beat that version of Anderson Silva, and the way he did it and where he did it was amazing, and had a pretty decent title run, and eventually lost against Luke Rockhold, didn't he? Went for that stupid spinning back kick and got taken down, and the rest is history. Anyway, he retired recently, maybe a month ago. Is it 6 weeks, maybe?
Yeah, not that long. Only the back end of last year.
He's now signed with GFL. I'm hearing, right, the average fighters, so the bottom of their roster, so maybe fighters that were getting, I don't know, 40 and 40 in the UFC, the show and win, are getting 250 grand. And Chris Weidman's getting $2 million to fight, and the average top end purse is $1.2 million. I'm going to go out on a whim here now and say a bit like Oscar De La Hoya's MMA, this will not be here this time next year.
It's my initial reaction to hearing this is it's a load of UFC, Bellator, PFL has-beens that have had their time that just can't quite let go of being professional athletes, trying to reignite it in this fight division. I mean, there's legends in there, so of course it could be appealing to watch, but these are legends that are past their prime and should be coaching, doing punditry, sitting with their pipe and slippers, enjoying, the fruits of their labor, so to speak. It could be dangerous. So yes, we may see some legends, but it doesn't sit overly well with me.
I mean, it's got Shogun in it, for God's sake. Shogun should have stopped fighting 4 or 5 years ago. Shogun's an MMA legend. What? You're such a prick. You're such a prick, Dylan. Why are you letting everybody know that 1.2 mils pocket change for me? It's in dollars as well, so definitely pocket change. You better not be late for work tomorrow, boy. You get grounded. That's my colleague, Dylan, my homeboy. But yeah, it's got the likes of Yoel Romero, Shogun Rua, Hector Lombard, Gleison Tebow, Verdum. It's a who's who of who's not good enough to be in a decent MMA promotion anymore. With the utmost respect, these guys have done more in their sleep than I could ever dream of. But there's a reason why none of them are signed to major promotions. Major promotions do not miss a trick. I mean, Clay Guida has only just been let go by the UFC. He's lost maybe his last 8 of his last 10, but continues to fight. If you're any good, they will continue to give you fights. The UFC, Bellator, I know they've recently gone, even though Saturday's fight was the Bellator title. I can't work it out, but the 3 major promotions, or 4, because there's 1 championship, they've got some decent fighters, but they don't let people go if they've got a use, if they can make money from them. And you see that, I mean, a roster with an average age of 36 is concerning for me.
Mate, it's not sustainable. Unfortunately, it's only a matter of time before someone probably gets hurt in these fights as well.
That's me. Because I'm assuming it won't be under VADA or USADA.
Mate, that's the thing. I mean, you said it yourself, like Oscar De La Hoya's MMA Fight League. If it's still here by the end of 2025, I'll be surprised.
It gets worse. Henin Barao, Marlon Moraes, Kat Zingano, Paige Van Zandt.
Stop now, mate.
Oh my God. Yeah. Paige Van Zandt got beat up by a flipping YouTuber. For God's sake.
Stop. I need to wear anymore.
Yeah. Moving on. I do want to touch. This leads us into BKFC. Now, BKFC is growing on me. And it's not anything to do with Conor. I'm not a Conor fanboy. It's nothing to do with that. It's just that it's not all washed up age. It's not like the GFL. It's not an opportunity to use a name to sell tickets, even though we just saw Eddie Alvarez headline against Jeremy Stephens. But most of those Eddie Alvarez could still mix it. Top 20 maybe. Jeremy Stephens has only just left. Do you know what I mean? But some of their fighters are not washed. They've got some decent names and they put on decent shows. I mean, that was the biggest growth. Was it the most attended show in Philadelphia?
Most attended.
Fight sports history. So for me, you've got to sit up and take notice. And for Conor to be going to every single show, I mean, I don't know how much he's invested, but it ain't pocket change if he's going to every single event. I mean, he's not doing his. It looks a mess, and he apparently wants to fight Jeremy Stephens. And why would he even say that when he knows he can't? I don't get Conor. He's trying to make fights when he knows he can't have them. Is that why? Because he knows he can't have them.
I mean, firstly, on bare knuckle as a whole, yeah, look, it's growing on me as well because. Yes, they're fighters that have left the UFC, say, for example, like the main event was on Saturday night. but they're not so far past their prime that you're thinking, oh, for God's sake, what are they doing in there? It's still competitive. It's still enjoyable. I mean, Eddie Alvarez got his arse handed to him by Jeremy Stephens, if we're being honest, but that was more a reflection on Jeremy Stephens having a better game plan and capitalizing on the big moments in the fight better. It's growing big. Look, you don't get the highest ever fight sports grossing gate, that's a bit of a mouthful, in Philly without having something there. And and people that say, oh, it's because Conor McGregor's involved. They don't give it. It's in Philadelphia about Conor McGregor in the same way that they do in Dublin, in the same way that they might do in Vegas, etc., etc. So yeah, there's an appeal to it, mate. I hope it keeps growing. Conor McGregor is more likely to fight in bare knuckle than he is in the UFC again. There's a hot take for you.
We'll move on. Moving swiftly on.
On this, on this, because I actually looked at tickets for UFC London because me and you've had a conversation.
Go if you paid me to go. No. Not unless I can sit right next to Cage. I'm not sitting in nosebleeds. Absolutely
this is
not.
This is what I was about to come to you, mate. So I had a look out of interest because I've never been to a MMA event before. Would love to go, but as we said before, always outpriced. Dave, they've been slashed by £120, but to sit top tier of the O2, you're still talking about over 200 quid for a fight.
What? For a nosebleed?
Yep. So, yeah, they've been slashed, and you can say that. And Dana said, yeah, we're slashing them from where they were for UFC 304 or for when Aspinall came back or for Edwards Usman 3. But if I'm paying 200 quid, I want to be able to, see the spit bucket, having the spit put in it kind of thing. I want to
it's a lot of money. I mean, what do you pay for a VIP boxing? 350 max?
250, 350, yeah, somewhere around that.
If it's like an AJ fight. I know they have stupid £1,200 seats and that, but do you know the best MMA event I've ever been to? Cage Warriors at the, what's it called in Manchester? It's not the Velodrome, it's the...
not Victoria Warehouse, is it?
No, it was... I can't remember, but it had some good fighters. It had Leroy Duncan, Christian Leroy Duncan. I think he was the main event. He was the middleweight champion. It had his Cage Warriors now. He's Paddy Pimlet's stablemate, Luke. Dark haired. He's got like long dark hair. But
I can picture him. Just can't think of the last name.
Absolutely fantastic show. Production was great. Yeah. But no, UFC, I mean, tickets are ridiculously priced. It's stupid because to be honest, it will keep a certain type of person away. The certain type of people that buys the £40 boxing tickets, maybe. I don't know. They're not doing it for that. They're just doing it to get as much gate receipts as they can. But
mate, the way you got to look at it is UFC have the European market done over a barrel because in the UK we get a London card, a Paris card, and if we're lucky, maybe a second UK card in a year. That's all we get from the UFC. That's 2 or 3 if we're flipping lucky. We had 4 last year, but that was with France as well. But that was just the UK got lucky. So they know they can do the ticket prices at outlandish prices, but they have such a captive audience that people are going to pay it.
People will always buy UFC tickets, won't they?
225 quid to sit in the top tier of the O2 Arena. I paid 40 quid to sit up there for a concert, and it was all right. It was keeping the missus happy, so that was the main thing. I was happy to pay the 40 quid, but 225 quid to watch MMA or any fight sport, it's not right. I've sat lower tier at the O2 for fights, and that's perfect. That upper tier, if you're too far near the back of it, you're just looking at the screen the whole night, and then what you pay?
You might as well. You might
pay 225 quid to do what you do at home. Yeah. So
that's the issue for me.
Round of applause, Dave. They've reduced their ticket prices by 120 quid, but they're still outpricing. Outpricing the average person.
Just dip back
on the price of a pint of food at the O2 transport.
You're talking 300 to 500 quid for a decent night. Yeah. Just a quick one. Give it a try. I was very dismissive at first. I thought it was just a gimmick. But it's actually a decent level. I mean, it's a bit brutal sometimes. There are a lot of cuts, but actually you get less injuries because there's less padding. So there's less actual impact. And the punches are a lot cleaner because they've got to be careful. They can't just wing because their hands aren't protected. You don't really see many of them breaking their hands, do you? You get a lot of cuts. But
yeah, it's cuts more than anything, mate. But, Yeah, Pat, I was exactly the same as Joe, exactly the same as you. Really skeptical. I still can't say I'm 100% in on it, but I'm getting close to it. I think it's a fantastic concept. And if they keep building up like they are, and look, we'll slag Conor McGregor off, but here's money in Forge Irish Stouts. Money is helping bring this promotion up. If they're going to keep putting this production level in, then I'm all for it. Lock me in if that makes sense. But you can't dip now. Saturday night has set a new benchmark. It can only go up. We're not going to come back down to almost underground crap. We want to see it continue rising.
No, it's going up and up and up, isn't it? Okay, well, that leads us on to Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday.
Saturday night's fight night card. It's fairly early for us. I think it's like 5 o'clock over here. We'll start further down the card. We discussed the main event. We'll touch on it briefly, but fight I'm pretty, I'm really interested in. We've got Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'll try saying that twice, but yes, interesting fight. Sergey Pavlovich was the man that they brought in as this killer, and he was the man that was going to test Tom Aspinall, and yeah, that didn't end well for him. Don't think, has he fought since?
Pavlovich fought once, I think. I'm just looking now.
I can't remember. I can't remember. Has he fought someone like Derek Lewis or someone like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He has fought since, and he's lost to Volkov. So Pavlovich is coming into this on a 2-fight slide.
Shit, he did. Alexander Volkov. He's on a bit of a tear, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Volkov
is,
I think they're talking about Volkov Gan, are they? Paris headline.
Volkov Gan for Paris is apparently 70% done.
Okay.
So let's see.
Okay.
Go on.
Go. Sorry. No, go.
I was going to say, this matchup absolutely fascinates me because when Rozenstruik went in against Taito Ivasa on the Dricus and Izzy card, me and Sam both said that this is Ty's opportunity to come back. You give him heavyweights with not a lot of movement. By that, they can bang, but they don't provide a lot of head movement or any sort of movement, and they just stand there. Ty looks good. Rozenstruik came out looking like a middleweight. He had footwork and movement for days and just made Ty look what he is.
He's a kickboxer by trade, isn't he, though? So
but he done it in such a way, mate, that it was a skill set we hadn't seen from before. He was polished. Yeah. There was fast movement. He didn't really get touched until the last 10 seconds when I think he knew he'd won the fight, so he decided to let Ty hit him a couple of times.
Slowed down a bit.
But the question that comes, Rozenstruik is 36 years old. That is the caveat to that. That's a fantastic performance last August. Last time we saw you, at some point, you lose it when you reach that age in professional sports. We've seen it in boxing. You see it to a lesser extent in football, but you see a player that's had a stellar career just go off a cliff face. It can happen. Pavlovich is an interesting one. Look, 32-year-old Russian, lost on points to Volkov on last time out, as I said a minute ago, but was absolutely iced by Tom Aspinall inside 2 minutes for the interim top heavyweight title. Look, Sergey is a typical Eastern European fighter. If you write him off, he's going to come out and deliver massively.
Smash it to pieces.
And we're all going to be sitting, why did we ever doubt this guy? He's just going to go. But Rozenstruik, look, Biggie is a great fighter, a great striker. It's who lands their biggest shots first. They're both the same height. Pavlovich will probably have about 10, maybe 15 pounds at the most weight advantage if he can use that to lean on Rozenstruik in the same way that Francis Ngannou did before Ngannou absolutely flatlined him about 4 years ago now. Then I can see that path to victory for Pavlovich, but you have to favour Rozenstruik, and you have to favour Rozenstruik. His best way for victory is to stay out of trouble. So Rozenstruik taking a 30-27 over the 15 minutes wouldn't surprise me at all in this one.
And I'm the opposite. I think Pavlovich will run through him. I think he'll get hold of him. I think he'll take him down, and I think he'll ground and pound him. Unless he gets clipped coming in, I think Rozenstruik needs to keep it at distance, and I think Pavlovich needs to get hold of him. Even though Pavlovich is a concussive puncher himself, I just think that Rozenstruik is the cleaner striker, obviously with a background in kickboxing. I think Pavlovich's best path to victory is to get hold of him, get him up against the cage, try get him down, pull his legs from underneath him and ground and pound him. I would go, prediction for me is Pavlovich second round stoppage. You're going 30-27.
Yeah.
Biggie.
I just
Biggie
think
boy.
I just think it's going to be a gun-shy Pavlovich that's lost 2 fights in a row. That, let's be honest, against Tommy, he didn't really have a moment apart from one glancing jab, but Tom was off balance, so that made that look worse than it was. Mayweather had him. That jab looks amazing when Mayweather falls in the ropes, but he's tripping over his feet when it lands. Whereas Rosenstrike has come off of one of his best performances in the last few years against Tai Tuivasa. So confidence can play a massive factor in MMA, but it's heavyweights. One moment changes a fight. But for me, it's Rosenstrike. But it will be an interesting fight. If Pavlovich loses again, then might we see him in bare knuckle or something like that? You get what I mean?
He might get cut, yeah. They could get cut. They are being brutal.
Yeah.
They've done a few cuts this week. The next fight, then, the co-main event, I hate and love this fight in equal measure. It's fantastic because you've got two of the purest strikers in MMA, really. Michael Venom Page is a career karate point fighter that's transitioned into MMA. Had a run at the world title in Bellator. I thought he was unlucky in the rematch against Lima. I thought he'd edged it. Got absolutely flatlined in the first one, but was in and around world title level. Tried boxing, tried bare knuckle. Here he is in MMA. I mean, I actually thought he edged Gary, if I'm honest, but I haven't watched it back. I'm saying that watching it live, which is different to watching it afterwards. I think we did a watch along, so I think we were talking, and I've maybe not concentrated as much, but I fear for him in this fight. He's not a middleweight. He's a skinny welterweight. I think he only makes welter because he's 6 foot odd. Shara Bullet is, oh man, he hits so hard, and he is a 185er on an absolute tear. What do you reckon about this fight?
Mate, I agree with you. MVP, look, he was rumoured to come over to the UFC organisation for about 4 years before he actually did. He was already 35, nearly 36 by the time he moved over, and he's 37 now. And if we're honest, we've not seen the best of Michael Venom Page within the UFC organisation. Welterweight didn't work out for him. He's come up. He's now going up to middleweight, perhaps because the UFC wants to move that division along. We know they don't like Dricus as a champion, so they want to keep feeding him after
allegedly.
They want to keep allegedly don't like him. They want to keep feeding him younger, hungrier fighters. I say younger. Venom Page is the age he is.
Sean Strickland. He deserves that fight, though. He deserves that fight.
No, Strickland does. I just think for me, MVP's best days, in hindsight, were behind him before the UFC, and I believe that's what we're going to see on Saturday. I mean,
he's knocking on as well. I bet he's nearly 40, is he?
He's 37.
Yeah.
But look, the only thing that surprises me is he does have a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. So if he can keep it long and use his reach and use his karate-based background,
fight, like a bit like Wonder Boy.
Yeah, a Stephen Thompson-esque performance from Venom Page is probably his only path to victory. I just question if he's got it in him. I don't think he has. I think he gets stopped.
I think Shara Bullett's a career kickboxer as well prior to MMA. I think his striking's... I don't think he's as fast as... I'll tell you what I think. I think very similar to Rydia. Was it Rydia that beat Kevin Holland at the weekend? What's his name? Rydia, the Dutch kid. Rydia? I think he's called Rydia.
I know who you mean. I just can't...
1 second. What was it? UFC 311, was it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. That's it. Rainer Diridia.
Yes, okay, yeah.
You could see that when they'd both rehydrated, that it looked like there was 2 weight divisions between those two. And when he got older, Kevin Holland, he just threw him to the ground.
Ragdolled him,
and finished him. And he did actually say that Kevin Holland is a welterweight. He said, I felt that. He said, I knew that. He said, but I could feel it the second we came together. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Michael Venom Page will be able to pit pat and score for a round. But I think once Shara Bullet gets his time in and gets reads on him, he'll either get hold of him and just do him with elbows, maybe take him down, or his strikes are going to be conclusive. Whereas Venom Pages are going to be scoring, because Venom Page has never really been a knockout artist anyway, even at welterweight. So I don't see any great shakes in terms of his power increasing that much, because he's carrying an extra 15 pounds. He's not a big guy. I don't think he's got a big enough frame anyway to carry up to 185 other than a bit fleshy. He's not had long enough. And Shara Bullet's a 185er at least.
Look, Venom Page has to roll the dice because of age, because his UFC career hasn't gone to plan, as we've both already said, but he gets stopped, unfortunately. And it's very rare that either one of us will go against a Brit or Englishman, as he'll be in this fight, because that's how they do it in the UFC.
Yeah.
But taking patriotism out of it for once in my life, I don't
it's easy
do
for you
very
to
often.
say.
Thank you very much, my friends. I will go with Venom Page to be stopped in round number 2.
Yeah, again, my Brit bias, I want to say that, Michael Venom Page is going to 30-27 outpoint him, which he could do. We don't know what Shara's like, chasing, etc. But yeah, I'm similar to you, mate. I think that he's going to get beaten up, maybe survive the first round and just get absolutely the shit beat out of him in round 2. So yeah, I agree. I think we're both going for Shara Bullet in round 2. Begrudgingly, don't get me wrong, I want Michael Venom Page to win this fight. My heart wants him to win this fight, but my head tells me that it's a step too far in terms of weight and age. Like you said, Shara Bullet's younger, fresher, and a naturally bigger guy. So yeah, I don't see that ending well. We'll touch on the main event. Israel Adesanya. It's a strange one for me because Izzy is a headliner. He's the main guy. We've barely seen him fight on anything other than pay-per-views for the last 5 years, 4 years, however long it's been, and he's now headlining a fight night. Has he done this on purpose? Does he want less of a build-up? Does he want to sort of sneak in the back door, get a win and put himself back in the mix? Or is it all that they had on offer? It's a strange fight for me because it does nothing for him if he wins it. I know Imovov's in the top 10, top 5 maybe, but does nothing for Izzy if he wins this fight other than gives him a bit of confidence, really, for me. What do you think on the main event, Liam?
Look, I said it last night when the two of us, along with Sam, done our prediction show over on SW Fight Hub. If you want to go have a check out of it, he said after losing to Dricus, he was going to take at least a year out of the octagon. Now, maths has never been my strong point, but I'm pretty sure August to February the 1st isn't quite 12 months.
Not that long.
It's not that long, is it? So,
nope.
He done this after Strickland as well. He said, I'm going to take time out, and he came back quickly.
Yep.
And it could be for one of 2 reasons, as I said last night. Either he's realised with his age, he doesn't have that long left, and he doesn't want to go out on, say, a defeat to Dricus and then losing to a fighter that he would have beaten 18 months, superseding whenever they were to fight, if that makes sense. So he's coming back sooner. But that's also dangerous in its own right, because to have a foot out the door and say you want to spend some time with your family, spend some time investing in your coaching for your post-career. Yeah, it does. Look, I absolutely love Izzy. I said to you boys, what he done, he was one of those fighters that came through the UFC at the right time as it was just really starting to capture and grab my imagination. I don't want to see him go out in a bad way. I think he's got enough to win this fight on Saturday, but I'm not. Put it this way, if I had money to put a bet on and gamble responsibly, people, it would not be with any real confidence, which I think shows where Israel Adesanya has been at since the Sean Strickland fight, or since Poatan.
His last win, that was his last victory, was the Poatan victory.
But even going back to when he lost to Poatan at MSG, mate, he was, that took so much out of him, and he had to get himself into such a place to win that rematch. You just wonder if not his competitive soul, but if his fighting spirit, so to speak, left him in that moment where he's firing the arrows at a stricken Pereira on the floor. You wonder if that was mentally him checking out of MMA, like getting a victory over Alex Pereira had consumed him for close to 10 years because they'd met before the UFC.
I saw something in Izzy in the Dricus fight, because let's not get it twisted. Izzy was winning that fight up until he wasn't. But he sort of resided himself to the fact that once he got in the grips of Dricus, it was done. And he sort of... Does that make sense to you? Without saying he quit, I don't mean he quit, but he sort of like, it was like he'd expected it to happen. He was waiting for it to happen, even though he was having a decent fight. And that's not the Izzy I remember. That's not the Izzy I used to tune in to see. That's a different that's not the last style bender for me. That's a shadow of the last style bender.
It's formerly known as the last style bender.
Yeah, what I don't want to see is that guy turn up on Saturday night and get his ass beat by somebody that couldn't lace his boots a couple of years ago. It's a strange fight, but you know, he might have that competitive hunger back. He might be doing this to test himself, just to see where he's at. But don't know, man. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's great to see that. I say it's always good to see Israel Adesanya fight. I just worry because he was competitive against Dricus and arguably was beating Dricus until Dricus stopped him. That's the reality of what happened in August.
Yeah.
I've said I think he'll win a 3-2, 4-1 on the cards fight, and I'm sticking with that today. I don't think he's going to lose this, but if he has just fallen off a cliff face, a la Michael Bisping after he lost his title was one that comes to mind. He went out to China, didn't he? Not long afterwards and got iced. I can't remember who was on that to him. And that was,
Kevin Gastelum.
Yes, Gastelum, that's it. And that was him done with his career. If Izzy loses on Saturday, I think that's him done. That's the reality. And I'd hate for that to be the way he goes out.
Yeah, I do. I think we'll know within a minute of what Izzy we've got. Because if Izzy's flowing and he's feeling himself and you know, he takes from the crowd and, you know, it's I want to see that Izzy that we fell in love with, you know, the dancing and the showmanship and the, you know, the tribal dress before the fight. And I don't think we're going to get that. He's a different guy now. And I'm like you. I believe that even the Izzy that we've got now is good enough to beat a majority of the roster. He's just not good enough to beat the best of the roster. I don't want to see that. I'd be happy to see him eke a win and put his gloves down and say, I just wanted to give it one last shot. You know, I haven't got that hunger anymore. You know, good luck to everybody, but I'm out. I don't think he'll do that. I think if he gets the win, he's going to call for the winner of Dricus and Strickland, didn't he? And I don't want to see them fight either of those. But yeah, I think he'll win. I think he'll win on points, same as you. But I'm apprehensive about that fight. I wouldn't say worried, but I'm apprehensive that he could get beat by somebody, as I said, that a few years ago wouldn't have got anywhere close. He'd have done like he did to Brunson and Tavares, and you know, he just pieced him up. But I don't think that Izzy exists anymore. Like you said, I think he left a piece of his soul in that cage. I think Poatan took a lot out of him. I think the Strickland defeat did, because he never expected to lose to Strickland, certainly not on points anyway. And there were times in that fight where it looked like he'd just given up sort of in there and was just getting through the rounds without really trying or didn't have it. You know, like he felt he didn't have it, but he must think he's got something left, because Imovov's a dangerous, you know, I know I've said he couldn't lace his boots a few years ago, but he's still a top 10, top 5 middleweight. You know, so Izzy must think that he's got something left to take the fight. He don't need the money, so he must want to challenge himself. I'm just, you know, unsure of whether he's good enough anymore at that level.
Yeah, like you say, we'll know by the end of round 1 what Izzy has left, what Izzy we've got on the night. It's just, yeah, we hope he comes through, but who knows, mate? It's one of those. It's kind of like you've seen a movie 100 times and you know the ending, but you always hope it's going to be different.
We're all fans of Izzy, man.
Yeah,
we're all fans.
I nearly said we're
all benders then, but I think we'll just say we're all Izzy fans, mate. Moving on. Style benders, I meant.
Just stop, mate. Just leave it. Tap out. Tap out, son.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, not with any. It's not like you normally feel for an Izzy main event. It's not got that feel around it, has it? And I mean, I know it's a fight night, but you know, like I said, when he fought Brunson and those kind of fights, Tavares, we all still got up for him, even when Izzy was further down the card. You know, because he got the backing of like Joe Rogan and people like that, didn't he? So the mainstream got into this. Who's this style bender guy? And he did the dance and the break dancing and whatnot, and it was a full package. He doesn't seem to be that guy anymore. I don't know whether he's. I just don't know. It's just not easy for me. I'll watch, and we'll be doing a watch along, but I'll be like that probably just in case, because Imovovic's pretty hard as well.
Yeah, he does. It's we said it all, mate. We know what's going on. We'll see what happens.
Any more points? Any more headlines? Oh, you've picked up on that you'd like to cover before we call it a night for episode 3?
Nothing, mate. Like we say, a bit slim pickings this week. We've gone a bit earlier in the week, so we've covered what we covered, and as always, thank you to everyone that's joined along with us, interacted with us, and we'll keep this train rolling.
We have had this evening, obviously, Sam, our co-host, DJ Pat, Dave Ropedope, boxing podcast. Tune into that, guys. Really good podcast. We've had Dylan being a bit of a dick. So thank you for everybody that's interacted, everybody that's watching on X and YouTube. We will be back next week. We will probably go back to our Thursday spot and cover most of the headlines and fights from the previous week. You can catch me over on Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel. We've got the No Punches Pulled podcast on SW Fight Hub tomorrow around 7:30, 8 o'clock with myself, Sam, and Liam. Liam, have you got Fight Night picks? Liam's Fight Night picks tomorrow?
I've had a few issues with it tonight, mate. So there will be a Liam's Fight Night picks this week, but it may not be till Thursday. So keep an eyes peeled on YouTube.
So keep your eyes peeled. Liam_Tully9 on socials or on my socials, because we share each other's stuff. So you'll find links to any of our shows on there, or go over to Steve Talks Boxing X, and you can find a full back catalogue of Liam's Fight Night picks. Yeah, as I said, thanks for joining us. Liam, thanks again, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Keep punching. We'll see you next week. Thank you.